Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's live commentary coverage of NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying from the Chicago Street Course for this weekend's Grant Park 165. And this is going to be a fun one, of course, a unique event, new still to the NASCAR schedule, as we are street racing for only the second time ever in the second consecutive year in downtown Chicago, Illinois. Cars are just hitting the racetrack right now, most of them on their get up to speed lap as practice, but nobody has completed a lap yet at full speed under practice. And once they do, you'll get to see those lap times start to mesh in. Group qualifying and group practice is on for this weekend's Cup Series events. That is not unique compared to what we usually see on a Cup Series race day weekend. With this group practice session, the field is split in half. 20 cars here, 20 cars will be in Group B, and they'll also qualify in their respective groups with the top 5 from each group moving on, of course, into a final round qualifying where the top 10 will get ordered based off of that. So some of the first cars on the racetrack right now: Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, a couple for Hendrick Motorsports in this first group. And as I just mentioned, full field for this weekend with 20 cars in each group. Just the third time this season we have seen a full field of 40 cars at the racetrack. So it'll be fun to see. We actually had more than a full field in the Xfinity Series race for this weekend. That will be taking place a little bit later today. They just wrapped up their practice and qualifying session late in the morning hours. And now the Cup cars on track for the first time again here for this weekend. A lot of drivers pulling double duty this weekend. Josh Bilicki, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, Austin Hill, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Shane Van Gisbergen, and John Hunter Nemechek are all running in both the NASCAR Cup and NASCAR Xfinity Series races this weekend. Both races will be broadcasted on your local NBC affiliate for both today and tomorrow. And that Xfinity Series race coverage later today will begin at 3:30 Eastern Time right here on the channel. Let you listen into some of the USA Network coverage if you're wondering where you can listen to coverage of practice and qualifying as far as visually. Again, USA Network is taking care of things here this afternoon.
He's qualified second for the Xfinity Series race, which is later this afternoon. There's turn 4, right onto Roosevelt Road, and then a quick first to the right-hander, turn number 5, that leads them onto Columbus Drive. There's Chase Elliott as well as Hendrick Motorsports teammate right behind Larson. Hendrick Motorsports cars 1 and 2 on Columbus. As far as the drivers on the course, 1 and 4 on the leaderboard right now. What a shot right there. And that gives you an example of how expansive this road course is, and the property and just the whole campus. That is pretty breathtaking.
Also pretty surprising if this is the first time you watched a race, you saw the elevation change. Downhill into turn 7, uphill, downhill into this loop. Very rough, very bumpy racetrack. It's a very difficult challenge for everybody.
Chase Elliott currently second fastest as they went past the temporary alternate start-finish line that's just out of turn 11. To Brad Keselowski coming onto the front stretch.
Not known as a road course expert, but I think he's trying to change that in this new car. So far, so good, clean and green in practice, chasing his teammate Chris Buescher. Has found some success at the road courses. His numbers quite outstanding, super consistent. No surprise, Brad chasing him around. This group of cars working their way down DeSable Lakeshore Drive. They work through 3, and they'll come into turn number 4 right here. That's Chris Buescher in front of it. Brad Keselowski, the 2 RFK cars, joined by a third car this week. Joey Hand is in the 60, but for now, it's the 2 full-season cars, nose to tail, as they work off of turn 5. And they come back off of 5, working their way down to 6. Nobody really pressuring any one for position. They're just trying to get speed, trying to understand what they need in their car. Here comes Joey Logano. Here comes Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski after winning earlier this year at Darlington for win number 2 tomorrow here in Chicago.
I love this strategy right here, Brad. An experienced race car driver, a champion at the Cup level, but Steve mentioned it. He has struggled on road courses. It has not been pretty. Knows he has to get better at it. There's so many of them in the schedule today. Chris Buescher, his teammate, is very good at them. Get some experience, follow him. Both of them have decent lap times.
Keselowski is right on the back bumper. Buescher, Chastain, and he misses turn 4. So he goes into the runoff area there.
We'll see how much they push the limits.
Was watching practice earlier this morning for the Xfinity Series, and there was quite a bit of crashes that went on with pretty significant contact into what are some very tough and sturdy walls. Remember, most tracks have safer barrier, ovals, or even road courses nowadays. Outside of the certain specific areas where there are tire walls, with this being a very narrow racetrack, that is why there isn't any safer barrier down the straightaways, and that could definitely cause a lot of damage to these race cars if you were to get into an incident. Justin Allgaier had a pretty good impact earlier today into, I believe it was the turn 4 wall. Kind of hit the edge of the tire wall, then got cleaned out from behind by Alan Day. Um, and that was well after the caution flag had already risen. Obviously, blind corners on the street course as well could cause into maybe some more issues like that here this weekend. Hopefully, that is not the case, but we saw a little bit of it last year, especially in the Cup race, because they were able to run the majority of their race. The Xfinity Series only really ran about 25 laps of their race last year, 23, 25 laps. It got called a little bit before the halfway mark as they were unable to get to the conclusion of the race. They were in the early going of stage 2 yet. So they have a lot less experience than these Cup Series drivers do on this racetrack, of course, but still definitely going to be an interesting development to watch. Just these drivers trying to get accustomed to this track all weekend long. And really, for the Xfinity Series, you got to figure they're really only here and on track for earlier today with practice, qualifying, and now the race. Now, they did get a full 50-minute practice session earlier, a little bit extra than that with that Allgaier incident causing a pretty lengthy red flag, but drivers were definitely able to get in several laps, about 15 to 20 laps for most of them. Very few were able to actually make consecutive fast laps due to the incidences that we had seen, which again, there were quite a few. Now, with the field split in half for the Cup Series practice session, again, Group A cars on track right now, Group B will be on after them. Each of these groups get 20 minutes of practice, but with less cars on the racetrack, maybe there won't be as many incidences here in this Cup Series field. Plus, these cars have a little bit more mechanical grip. They're more purpose-built for short tracks or road courses in the essence that they have a lot more grip at those style of racetracks than what they would on the intermediate tracks compared to the Xfinity and or Truck Series. Shane Van Gisbergen to the top of the leaderboard, at least trading lap times at the top with him and Kyle Larson. Larson now back on top at 88.865 was the fastest lap by Larson, just put down there. A couple seconds quicker than what we saw some of the faster laps in the Xfinity Series practice session earlier, which was topped by Sam Mayer and Shane Van Gisbergen. The 20 cars on the track right now, and in the order that they are based off their practice times. Again, Kyle Larson is P1, a little over a tenth of a second quicker than Shane Van Gisbergen's fastest lap, who was second. Jonathan Nemechek now bumps up to third quickest, Daniel Suarez fourth, Michael McDowell fifth, Todd Gilliland sixth, Chase Elliott seventh, Chase Briscoe eighth, Corey LaJoie 9th, and Brad Keselowski is 10th. Chris Buescher 11th, Martin Truex Jr. 12th, Noah Gragson 13th, Joey Logano 14th, Austin Hill 15th, Joey Hand 16th, Zane Smith 17th, Josh Berry 18th, Ross Chastain 19th, and Kaz Grala rounds out the 20-car half field in practice so far.
Next.
It's gigantic.
I mean, it really is amazing. That's a great kind of perspective. Look how small the cars look compared to the fountain. Yeah. What a scene. Check in on the 16. And Dave, what's happening with AJ?
So with Shane Van Gisbergen in the 16 this week, yeah, he's in a battle with Kyle Larson at the top of the charts. Back and forth they go for fastest time in practice. Remember, this is a full-time Xfinity Series driver, Shane Van Gisbergen, who just took pole for the Xfinity Series race this afternoon. After that, ran back to the garage area to make a quick suit change, grab some lunch, talk to the media for just a minute, got back here, and of course, his car was in Group A, so he had to get right into the race car, get going right again. As soon as he was told he was second by how much to who, Van Gisbergen went back to the top. But currently, he is still chasing Kyle Larson. A lot of steps around here today, even for SVG.
I mean, I know there's a lot of great food in Chicago, and them saucy nugs are good too. I mean, it's lunch, because the New Zealander, I'm sure, loves being able to talk about the saucy nugs that are on the side of the car for him. And again, he's in the 16. AJ Allmendinger's in the 13 for this race. See a little bit of tire lockup there for Chase Briscoe as he entered.
Junior officially retires from the 19, Dylan. So
think he's trying to impress. He knows where he is next year, but opportunity here at SHR to finish the season.
And you see how out of sorts the car was. They're going entry to 4. It's a change in pavement materials down here. It's been exciting to watch the commitment level these guys have to take, Mike, to get through this corner successfully.
Now he's back on Columbus, and he breaks late coming in, and he hangs that hard left, skirts the inside wall, swings it wide under the bridge, and over. Now the railroad tracks headed to 7.
Now, Briscoe currently 6 fast, is a really good road racer. This is a great opportunity, like Steve talked about, to give them experience, to give some confidence to the team you're going to next year that you are a road racer. Give me the kind of race cars I need, and I can put it up front. See how rough the racetrack is, the front of the car bouncing up and down. Oh, using all the wall. That's what you got to do here.
Briscoe now into 12 and on the front stretch. Sliding it right up against the wall there as he goes down the front stretch. We'll see speeds here on Columbus Drive upwards of 130, 135 miles an hour when he gets ready to turn left on 1. Look at him slide this thing around.
Big slide, and then the bumps. You can see the car kind of bounce. You really have to temper your brake pressure. You can't just stand on the brakes because the tires kind of lose grip, and then sliding around that Congress Plaza. It's almost, I think, where the drivers might be more comfortable because that is a much more standard field than long arcing like an oval. Now we're on board here with the 1 of Ross Chastain. This is down into turn 12, turning right. See pit lane to your right. That entry gets very tight under green flag conditions. And now think about this. Double file restarts that are going to pour you down into turn 1. It's interesting to note, Stevie, that Ross Chastain's not won a race this year. A lot of folks surprised by that, considering the successes of a year ago. Ross would love to win this race. Right now, he's got some work to do. Obviously, 15th on the leaderboard right now with 6 minutes to go in his practice.
Hot chance for this racetrack, a whole different beast, though. He's got Austin Hill, that car in front of him. Chastain makes the right through turn 4 right now. Slows with a 90-degree right-hand turn 5, and then up through the gearbox and onto Columbus Drive.
Yeah, once he makes his way onto Columbus Drive, it is a 2,050-foot run to the next corner, turn 6. This is the left-hander, and he's easy on the brakes, and he'll guide the car through. A little slower this time through turn 6 than his previous trips through.
Right here is a very difficult braking zone. Downhill, rough, 90-degree turn. A lot of drivers last year made a mistake right here. Hit the left side of the wall, driver's side impact. You see how important it is for line preference to be right against the wall at the left side. That sets you up to be able to get the speed where you need to be on the right. Stay out against the wall as long as you can. Throttle up hard here. Right there was Alton and start finish line for practice qualifying.
So much learned each lap, every turn around this 12-turn, 2.2-mile street course.
5 minutes to go in Group A practice. Kyle Larson still at the top of the leaderboard. Shane Van Gisbergen in second. Daniel Suarez back to third. Chase Elliott fourth. And Michael McDowell is your top 5. So that is your Fast 5 for Group A as of this moment. It'll be interesting to see where the Group B drivers will be able to latch their lap times in the midst of all the top 20 you see here from Group A. So 4 non-chartered entries for this weekend, again, making up a full 40-car field. There is no more than 40 cars, so everybody will qualify for the race here today. The 3 non-chartered entries would include Austin Hill in the 33 and a third Richard Childress Racing entry. The 16 car who is driven by usually driven by AJ Allmendinger. Shane Van Gisbergen is in that car this weekend. That is a chartered ride, but the 13 car for Colleague Racing that AJ Allmendinger is racing in, that is a non-chartered ride. That is also the same ride he drove in back at COTA when he ran the Cup race earlier this season, back in the spring. So AJ Allmendinger, Austin Hill, and then the others would be Joey Hand in the 60 car for RFK Racing. That'll be a third entry for them this weekend. And then the 66 car being backed by Josh Bilicki this weekend for MBM. They were in the race last weekend at Nashville as well. But MBM back for this week for the Chicago Street Race. So good to see. The only 2 cars of those non-chartered entries on the track in Group A is Joey Hand and Austin Hill. And then Bilicki and Allmendinger will be in Group B. So they have split those up. And they'll be the first to qualify as well because based off the metric system actually, no, never mind. It's group qualifying today. I completely forgot. So obviously they'll be qualifying in Group A, Group B still. But with road courses, it's group qualifying, as we would see even before they split them up into Group A's and Group B's the last couple of seasons. We'd see everybody go out, qualify. You have like 10 minutes to try to set a quick time. A little bit more than that, I think, in the first round because there are more cars that have to hit the racetrack. But I believe it's about 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So you got 15 minutes to set a quick lap. You can put a lap time down anywhere in those 15 minutes, but your fastest one will obviously count of however many you end up running. More than likely, you'll see most of these drivers and teams run only a couple of laps, try to get their laps off of the tires because those are the same tires that they not only start the race with tomorrow, but they are the same tires that they will also need for round 2 of qualifying if they do advance through round 1. Fastest 5 from each group would advance into the final round. That is no different from what we've seen all this season and last season since this group qualifying has come into play on ovals. But the only difference here at the road courses, again, it is timed instead of getting 1 to 2 laps.
Pretty awesome. Soldier Field actually held a NASCAR race back in the 50s. Just a little bit to the south, racing here, Grant Park. What a beautiful view that is as we now join the 4. Josh Berry on track.
Big news week for the 4 of Josh Berry. Now he'll be taking over the 1 car, the Wood Brothers entry. Excuse me, the 21. Lose a digit. Chevy 4, 21-1. I got 50% right in half of it. So yes, taking over the 21 car for the Wood Brothers next year.
And we're starting to see some of the walls have been hit a couple times, and now we're seeing a little bit of those decals, the vinyls that have been put out on the track.
I think in the race, you might have to throw a caution for that because it could get put on the grill and overheat. But I think in practice, could finish. Probably let them run the last minute, clean it up between groups.
50 seconds left to go in this practice. See, quite a few laps out of 1 of Chastain. He's got Sean Hunter Nemechek, another one of the drivers doing double duty.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, you look at, Nemechek 7th overall. Well, if you look at 5-lap averages, he's first. So that tells me that under control, hitting his marks, making, nice laps in the 42.
Solid start to practice for John Hunter here in the Cup Series inside of the top 10. He's just making the right-hand turn onto DeSable Lakeshore Driving Clearing Turn 2.
And track only getting better and more comfortable for him. As we said, somebody with some laps already this morning in the Xfinity car. He works down the end of DeSable Lakeshore Drive. Here's the right-hand turn number 4 onto Roosevelt all by himself at this part of the racetrack, and he'll slow down to make the right-hand turn number 5 and head back towards the bagman at the end of the turn number 6.
John Hunter has been doing something that a lot of other drivers have been doing again, and that is testing the limits of the braking. He's been locking up the left front of timer 2. He gets through this lap very clean, very crisp, and now he exits turn 6, heading downhill into 7th.
And one of the drivers doing double duty running the Xfinity race, getting a little bit of track time on a track that is very limited. Think about last year with all the weather conditions. Being able to run that Xfinity car, got him on this racetrack, got his brain thinking about this facility, and this is a very unique challenge. I think track time is really important.
One of the things John Hunter Nemechek has talked about is they don't really have a very thick notebook when it comes to going to these racetracks, but this is a racetrack where you really don't have a notebook because nothing was the same a year ago that we're seeing. Time for Group A. Group B will be next out on track or on course here in the streets of Chicago.
So the fastest lap by Larson was an 88.443. He ran 10 laps in his 20-minute practice session, which I think the most laps anybody ran, it looks like 12 by both Ross Chastain and Martin Truex Jr., but everybody ran between 8 to 12 laps in practice. Chris Buescher actually only ran 6. He ran 8 to 12. Kind of come in, make some adjustments. Some of them made straight runs. Those that did make about 11 to 12 laps, they pretty much ran it all the way out. Takes a little under a minute and a half to get a full lap in here for the fastest cars in the field. That lap average again by Larson on his 88.443 lap time. The average speed for that lap is 89.549 miles per hour. His best lap was actually his 9th of 10 laps completed So it just goes to show these drivers getting more and more acclimated and comfortable with their race cars on the track as they get more and more laps in. You're not going to see a whole lot of tire fall off on this racetrack like usual with the road courses in the Cup Series. But the lap times are definitely going to vary throughout the course of the race tomorrow as well when you see drivers run for what is the length of what's going to be 75 laps for the scheduled distance in tomorrow's race. We'll take our first ad break of the stream. Again, you're listening live to NASCAR Cup Series practice for the Chicago Street Course race, which will be taking place tomorrow afternoon right here on KRC. Any rain in the area, do you know? No rain in the Chicago. There is clear all day today and all day tomorrow. And it's not supposed to be hot and humid enough for there to even potentially be pop-up showers. I think the chances of rain were under 12% all weekend. So it'll be clear skies, mid-70s actually today in the Chicago area, and right around 80 degrees tomorrow, slightly warmer, but relatively same track temp-wise as well as air temp-wise, couple degree difference. So the conditions of the track today should replicate into tomorrow. Obviously, with twice as many cars on the track at the same time will be a whole different animal from what we're seeing in practice right here. But again, practice qualifying all on this stream. And Group B is about to begin. This next group of cars, you're going to have Carson Hocevar, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Hemrick, Eric Jones, AJ Allmendinger, Justin Haley, Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs, Josh Bilicki. And there's 11 other cars that aren't listed on our screen quite yet. Once they hit the racetrack, they will be listed. And I'll try to get back through the rest of that order. Our road courses, there's a different start-finish line for timing and scoring to start and stop. That finish line is right off the exit of turn 11 on this 12-turn, roughly 1.5 mile road course, a little over a 1.5 mile road course. And quite a few of these Cup Series drivers in the field today will be running that Xfinity race later. And of course, some Xfinity Series regulars full-time also in Cup duty, like Austin Hill, Shane Van Gisbergen, AJ Allmendinger, Josh Bilicki, and others.
Bergen was second fastest.
Those two quickly becoming the standouts. You can see a huge gap from second to third. Then third on back, Suarez, Elliott, McDowell, Briscoe, all so close on lap time.
Again, that top 10, when qualifying takes place, you want to, out of your group, at least top 5, so you can go into the second and final round. But now it's time for Group B to come out on track and take a little time. Streets. What a good shot at Buckingham Fountain there. As crews are going to work on Group A cars. Making their way back onto pit road, getting ready for qualifying now. Again, fastest in that Group A was Kyle Larson. I don't think there's any surprise that you're going to see Shane Van Gisbergen fast here. What about Daniel Suarez? Chase Elliott. We know Chase Elliott's a great road course racer.
Well, Chase for sure. Yeah, McDowell right behind him. Got that win last year in Indianapolis, really, where Chase was chasing him around. But Suarez, we forget he got that win at Sonoma. He's driving the Xfinity car here. I think those laps help kind of becoming comfortable quicker in the Cup car. I think the surprise for me is Joey Logano, who's the opposite side. He's all the way down in 18th. He's also an Xfinity Series car. So really shocking that Logano's struggling on pace.
Yeah, almost a little shock in how he's looking at the data right now, too.
But what a great call to stretch that fuel cell a week ago. So that makes the lack of pace right here not better, but more manageable from the anxiety level, knowing that they got that win, came in right there around the cut line, just a little outside. That kind of got them into the playoffs. Now this is all about having just a good week and they can focus on just the race ahead.
He really wasn't disappointed with the balance of his race car, just couldn't find that lap rhythm that he looks for to put down a fast time. So Ford, not bad, not that far off of the three ahead of him, including teammate Kyle Larson, who was quickest.
Rick, you and I were out on the track yesterday. We ran into Chase's crew chief, Alan Gustafson, the engineers walking around, and it was funny because they had some opinions on kind of what you could see, but they were honest. They said, look, unless you're going at least pace car speed, it's hard to understand kind of the angle of attack to each corner. But they were more focused on the surface. We've heard a lot of comments about the surface. Dylan Welch did a nice job of explaining what it's like down at turn 4. And that's what Alan was talking about. He really wanted to understand the different surfaces in each corner. So when Chase talked about it, he could kind of have that image in his head.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Alan talk about bumps and just how the car reacts. I mean, even coming from turn 6 to turn 7, we're going to see it. Right now we're going through the Congress Plaza here loop and into 12. But when they go over these bridges that are over the train tracks underneath, there are still bumps there too. So when they get light, they come down and kind of land hard, but then there's a bump there, and it happens also between 6 and 7.
This front stretch relatively smooth, but then heavy braking into turn 1 in front of Mike Mag. Some William Byron off the end of the front straight. This is where he locks it down under braking, hangs the left-hander. It's going on to Valbo. That's turn 1. 900 feet now, and a bit of an elevation change that'll drop him down into turn 2. The right-hander on the Lakeshore Drive, and right now he's just trying to shore drive. You see this fade to the right here. That's turn number 3. It's another 825 feet down to turn number 4. Where we are at right here to their left is the Field Museum of Natural History. Then it's the blast up to turn number 5, and then back around the corner and onto Columbus Drive. Yeah, when they get back on Columbus, 2,050 feet from the exit of turn 5 to the entrance of turn 6. Now, this is where they'll go under hard braking, and he brakes way late coming into the corner, and he slides out just a tad. He'll clear 6, and now over the train tracks downhill into 7.
I think what's most difficult for all of these drivers is knowing how hard they can push a race car. If you push this early and you overstep your bounds, there's concrete walls on both sides of the racetrack. You want to maximize everything, but is lap 1 the time to do that? All these drivers trying to understand the grip level, understand where they can push it and where they can't push it. You get a wreck early in practice, it really hurts your opportunity to be successful tomorrow.
And we see them coming out of turn 11 and going to 12, and you see the speed over 100 miles an hour. That's in one block.
Yeah.
In one block time, they're able to accelerate from about 60 miles an hour to over 100 miles an hour. And then onto these long straightaways, they're going over 130 miles an hour.
Here's Tyler Reddick making his way down the front straightaway. He, too, is getting ready to enter into turn number 1. Looking for another win on the season, taking that 2311 car through turn 1. Headed now over to turn 2, Lakeshore Drive, and he too, Dylan, just trying to get all the speed he can and get the best launch he can out of turn 2. And 3-time road course winner in this NASCAR iteration of the next-gen chassis, so he knows how to find the limit at these types of racetracks. Strong here last year, and he works down into turn number 4 right now, chasing Christopher Bell as they work down Roosevelt and come around turn number 5. We'll be embedded with Tyler Reddick tomorrow. One of our big reporters will have all the inside scoop for him in tomorrow's Cup Series broadcast. Tyler Reddick, among everyone else, is trying to find where the boundary is and find out. Dick Carney's giving us a great look on board right now as he gets ready to enter turn 7.
Look at turn 7. Look at all the brake marks on the inside of the racetrack. That's where people have locked up the right front tire. Right front gets really light in there. It's easy to flat spot it. Climb this hill. Hug the left side of the wall. Back down the hill. Almost hit the right door on that wall. Left side all the way to this wall again. It is a game of inches that you want to make lap time.
So many things associated with Chicago sports and food. Of course, deep dish pizza right here in Chicago, and they are busy this weekend.
Another full-screen commercial break on the USA Network with our practice session. Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick are the fastest 2 from Group B right now, but overall it's still Kyle Larson who has the quickest lap. The Group B drivers have only had really about 2 laps of practice in. Some of them have made 3 laps now, but they're still trying to get a feel for the racetrack. Tyler Reddick is now quickest of this group, just ahead of Bubba Wallace, so his second lap was quicker than his first. And they'll continue to get quicker, and they'll start to mesh in more with those top 20 that you see on the board right now. But currently your top 10, Kyle Larson up on the top of the leaderboard, Shane Van Gisbergen in second, Daniel Suarez third, Chase Elliott 4th, Michael McDowell 5th, Chase Briscoe 6th, John Henry Nemechek 7th, Zane Smith 8th, Todd Gillen 9th, and Martin Truex Jr. 10th. And again, so far fastest from Group B, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman are the fast 5 from Group B so far. And again, full 40 cars for this weekend have all made at least a couple of laps of practice now, as we're just a few minutes into Group B session, and then we'll have qualifying on the other side of this Group B practice session. Group A cars will be qualifying first in their respective groups. And again, I believe 15 minutes will be the amount of time they'll have to make at least one fast lap. Dan Bowers, Robert Perkle, Frank Powers, thanks for tuning in. You guys are the first in the chat down below. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. We're at 20 right now. Our goal is to get to 50 likes for today's live commentary stream of NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying from Chicago. So we'll take another ad break. Again, you're listening live right here on KRC. Lap. Some of that could be all of the laps he made in Xfinity Series practice earlier, so he already had a good feel for where his marks should be on the racetrack. Obviously a different race car, but off to a good start, a fast start. So third overall, and again, it only took him 3-4 laps now to run a lap time quick enough to be up where he's at on the leaderboard. Some of the others jumping up the leaderboard from Group B would be Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin. His teammates are now 10th and 11th overall. Some of the fastest cars in this group. So a lot more Toyotas in Group B, but they're showing some speed.
To maximize the sport. Put your team in. Look at that. Chicago has so many cool landmarks and arts, and that right there is called Cloud Gate. Steve, what's everyone else call it?
Stainless steel panels welded together and polished where you can't see any of the seams. Crazy.
Fascinating.
Have you got your selfie in front of it yet? Oh,
Numerous. Yes. My wife and I were here and were able to get quite a few shots of the different areas of Chicago. We've enjoyed it quite a bit. So we see Carson Hocevar working his way around. Saw Carson and his crew chief out to dinner last night.
I've been impressed with Carson so far this year. You know, the Cup Series, we always talk about just how difficult it is. I think that it's tough to judge because I think Fire is also really investing a lot in improving their program. But right here, 6 quick in practice, no damage yet, 4 laps underneath him. Young, enthusiastic driver. He's definitely on the go pedal, right? He's not a conservative type style. He really has that aggressive style.
He's only 21 years old and probably still trying to manage his emotions a little bit because he's coming off of a huge penalty from a week ago where he spun Harrison Burton under caution. NASCAR frowned upon that and decided that they would charge him with 25 points and $50,000 for this incident.
Yeah, and it starts here. Harrison Burton with a really big block under rate from the 7-7. Thought he had a run. He was upset for that block. That's really what racing has become, right? So then here, the yellow comes. This is another look at the block. But then when the yellow comes out, Harrison kind of slows down. 77 goes up. It spins them. And I have to support NASCAR in this one. I don't love when they get in the middle of racing under green unless it's clearly obvious. But we cannot have situations like this under yellow. In that case, there were no safety trucks. But when the track goes yellow, if we expect safety workers to go out there and do their job, the drivers have to respect it. $50,000 will definitely get your attention.
Yeah, that's a lesson. That's a
lesson for sure.
That was lesson learned. Carson Hocevar, but such a talented young driver, really on his way up.
Well, that 25 points is going to hurt. Really, his rookie of the year. He's in that running, and those 25 points are going to really hurt him in that situation.
Denny Hamlin was working the track on the track walk, and now he's got a lot of experience here at this course.
Here's Denny Hamlin. He has just cleared turn number 7. He is headed to Jeff Burton in turn 11.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin, such a smooth race car driver. Is this a year Denny could get his championship? He seemed very confident. Pole winner here last year. Can this be the year he gets it all done?
Well, I think that's been the big question, Jeff, is can the driver of the 11 put as much focus as he needs to on the championship? He says it's one race, but at the same time, it could be career defining if he ends up finishing his career without a championship.
Of course, Denny's been in the headline this week about what happened with him and Kyle Larson last weekend and what's been brewing with them for a while. Denny said on his podcast things may get worse or escalate. Larson says he's done. He just wants respect. So that Denny Larson situation will make its way to center stage at some point tomorrow, I'm sure, Dylan. Well, they'll be awfully close together. You have to imagine at some point. So plenty of opportunity for them to race each other. Denny smoothly through 4 and through 5 right now as he continued to sit in the 4th spot here in standings. Now watch his speed, right? He left turn 5 at about 65, 70 miles an hour. By the time he gets all the way to turn number 6, 143 miles an hour, and he takes it back to 51 miles an hour. On the hammer, hard on the brakes as he works his way to 7.
And this in-car is great. You can see the work he's got to do. The downshifts. Right there, one little shift. Look how much wheel movement there is. Trying to find the grip with the front tires while turning, and then here, go to the throttle as quickly as you can. Hands full over here on this part of the racetrack.
And he'll continue to learn around here, but we referenced the issues between Larson and Hamlin, and we'll take you back to just a week ago, and this is just one instance. There have been numerous instances over the past couple of years where these two have raced each other extremely hard. There it looks as though Larson using up the 11, moving him up the racetrack. The 11 getting into the back of the 5, trying to get him in a little hotter than he would normally like to into the turns. But this has gone on for quite some time.
Well, it's gone on for quite some time, and what makes this rivalry so interesting is they are dominant. 3 wins each, top 5s, top 10s. Think about this, Rick. For nearly 20% of the laps run all year long, they have been within one position of one another. And that's not back at 19th or 20th, right? These guys run in the front. So for nearly 20% of the entire season, they've been first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You did that enough, your patience runs short. I mean, this is what NASCAR is built on, is rivalries at the front of these grids.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if it isn't the 11 and the 5 that are fighting for a championship this season's end, and we'll see how aggressive each one will be. And a little bit of contact with the outside wall there. That's 45. Again, we're better with that team tomorrow. Using up every bit of the track.
Evasive maneuver from behind him by Bubba Wallace. That was right off the exit of turn 12, coming to the front stretch where Reddick had gotten loose. Tagged the wall with the left turn corner panel just a bit. No major damage, though, on the race car. Kyle Larson's fast lap from Group A practice still holds up as the fastest lap overall. Shane Van Gisbergen is second. Ty Gibbs is third. He's fastest in Group B. Daniel Suarez is fourth from Group A. And Bubba Wallace is fifth fastest on the charts from Group B as well. Needs a good weekend. He's 51 points below that cutoff line coming into this weekend's events. We'll go over the point standings in between practice and qualifying here in a little bit. Chase Elliott is 6th, Michael McDowell 7th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Denny Hamlin 9th, Chase Briscoe rounds out the top 10 in practice. Top 5 in Group B right now, all Toyotas, Gibbs, Wallace, Reddick, Hamlin, and Bell. Bell is 13th currently on the leaderboard overall. Outside the top 10, you got Alex Bowman 11th, John Hunter Nemechek 12th, again Bell in 13th, Carson Hocevar 14th, Zane Smith in 15th. 16th for Todd Gilliland, William Byron 17th, Martin Truex Jr. 18th, Austin Hill 19th, and Corey LaJoie is 20th. AJ Allmendinger 21st, Austin Dillon 22nd, Josh Berry 23rd, Ryan Blaney 24th, Ross Chastain 28th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 29th, Noah Gragson 30th. 31st, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano 32nd, Harrison Burton 33rd, Joey Hand 34th, Ryan Preece 35th, Eric Jones 36th, Kaz Gralla 37th, Justin Haley 38th, 39th for Daniel Hemrick, and Josh Bilicki is last 40th out of 40. He's only ran 3 laps of practice. Everybody else a little bit more than that. Had right around 5 minutes to go in practice when they went to commercial. They'll come back. We'll have a little less than 5 minutes to go. Let you listen to the end of practice Again, different style broadcast for NBC USA Network this weekend for all the coverage of the Xfinity Cup Series action at the Chicago Street Course layout. We have radio style broadcasts you'll get to listen to there, and I think that's very cool, especially with the way this live commentary stream is, because when I'm chiming in, it's usually like a radio style because you guys can't actually visually watch the race. So I'm trying to give you all the information possible at once that I can. And they're doing a great job of that this weekend with a couple extra on-air personnel. Dave Moody from MRN. I believe Dylan Welsh, also one of the extra reporters this weekend in the corners. They have Jeff Burton out of the booth in one of the finishing corners of the racetrack.
It's like he's trying to avoid that twin. Yes, the twins running us slow is that forces the 45 into the second lane, and I just think the second lane has less grip. I think you can tell you see the tire tracks he's carrying. The 23 behind him is almost faster than the 45, but because he's in the preferred lane down here on the bottom, you see the tire tracks, it's clean. That's going to be interesting because remember, the restart zone for these races are between turn 11 and turn 12. It's before you get on the front stretch. You restart there, you have to maintain, oh man, as I thought the 54 was going to get into the wall in front of the 45. You have to maintain your lane so you're forced into the second corner. So while the track is improving in the preferred lane, offline is definitely dirty and low on grip.
Ty Gibbs, another one of those drivers doing double duty. He'll race this afternoon in the Xfinity Series and then in racing tomorrow for the Cup Series, which is practicing now. We see those bumps as he went into turn 4.
The last lap, he ran the fastest lap of practice on lap 10. So, pushing that limit, he obviously found it into turn 1 with that lockup.
Dave. So, Steve, you mentioned the turn 1 lockup. They told Ty Gibbs that he was not braking deep enough as a couple of cars that were getting better into turn 1 and into turn 6. He's navigated them both well, but you can see he was really pushing a little bit harder there. Steve, you give him spots where you can improve on, but you don't want to over-improve.
That's great report, Gabe. Basically, they're saying, hey, per the data we're getting, we think you could gain a little time here. So he's down in. And that is a panicky moment for the race car driver. I mean, then you're talking 3 or 4 more feet, and he makes contact with that right side tire barrier. I mean, look how close it is. Thankfully, they kind of tapered that barrier off, or he would have found an issue.
Here was the lockup, though, right there.
And he really locked it up. That's when you start to see that tire smoke. That's actually when you want to start getting off the brakes. The reason it locked up is because he was carrying too much speed, as we see. Big moment with the back of the 51. Why you see that tire lock up is because he's still on the brakes, hoping he slows down enough to make the corner.
And that turn 1, that's where we saw Kevin Harvick a year ago get into the wall there.
So now we're back down, heading towards turn 6. Mike Bagley, that was calamity corner a year ago in the wet.
It was, and we're looking for it again this weekend, although it'll be interesting to see if it's as eventful as it was last year in the dry. Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, everybody trying to get to the end of this practice session. Here's Bubba now, heading down the hill into turn 7 with Austin Cindric in the 2 and Hot Pursuit. Great shot of the 2 car coming downhill, bouncing off of those bumps. That's how rough the racetrack is. Practice coming to a close. Drivers still trying to find everything that there is. Only 20 minutes of practice. A very unique racetrack. It's very limited amount. It's like they hit their laps perfect. They have a little bit of a break that they can go try to find and qualify.
Rick, I'm going to say, Bubba Wallace, he's hard on himself with the road courses. 3rd on 5-lap average. That whole practice was in control, running some great laps.
Burton had mentioned drivers trying to find things. How about Alex Bowman trying to find his first win? And he was at the top of 5-lap average. Bowman surprised people here in the streets of Chicago.
Yeah, right on the last lap, he finished off with the fastest time from Group B, so topping all those Toyotas. He was 5th initially, but it looks like he's going to be just ahead of Gibbs, which would be about 3rd overall. So fast 10, top 10 from this practice session. Kyle Larson first, Shane Van Gisbergen in 2nd. Our leaderboard probably won't update because it was after the red flag was technically out, but on the last lap, Bowman would have gotten the 3rd fastest overall, fastest in Group B. Ty Gibbs 4th, Daniel Suarez in 5th, Bubba Wallace 6th, Chase Elliott 7th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Michael McDowell 9th, Denny Hamlin 10th quickest. So that was your fast 10 drivers overall from 20 minutes each. No incidences on track, so they did get their full 20 minutes with no interruptions there. Saw a couple of slight wall taps, but that seemed to be about it. So a lot less chaotic, I guess, for this Cup Series practice session, and now we'll get to see qualifying. So round 1, Group A. Again, about 15 minutes for these drivers to set their fast laps in this qualifying. We'll have a chance to re-qualify for the pole, and then positions 6 through 20 will be designated to the start of the outside row for tomorrow's race. Again, all that the same. The only difference with the road courses on this group qualifying format is the fact that it is timed and not designated for each driver to only get 1 to 2 laps. You can take as many as you want. You can run the full 15 minutes if you really want to, trying to set a quick lap. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to go. Gisberg in 2nd, so they'll both be out here trying to put themselves with a shot at the pole. Just got to break the top 5 first. Again, Austin Hill, Joey Hand, Kaz Gralla, John Hunter Nemechek, Shane Van Gisbergen, Michael McDowell, Corey LaJoie, Josh Berry, Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith, Brad Keselowski, Noah Gragson, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Chris Buescher, and Joey Logano, along with Kyle Larson, are the 20 cars that are about to take track here for Group A qualifying. 26 likes on the stream. Again, our goal is to get to 50 likes during this practice and qualifying live commentary stream. We'll have full Xfinity Series race coverage also today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a little over 2 hours from now. We'll begin our coverage for that. Tomorrow's Cup Series race coverage will begin with our pre-race at 4 p.m. Eastern Time as well. And the hopes of running a NASCAR 07 stream later tonight as well, a Busch Series race at Watkins Glen. That will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern, so we're going to have a triple header of action on the channel here today. We'll take a look at the point standings before qualifying actually begins here as well as they go to yet another commercial break. Kyle Larson is your top points getter so far this season. He's 20 points ahead of Chase Elliott after last week's race at Nashville. 43 points ahead of Denny Hamlin, who sits 3rd. Tyler Reddick 4th, minus 53 points. So the top 4 points all within one race worth that they can mathematically take the points lead coming into this weekend over each other on. Kyle Larson is the season leader in laps led, as well as top 5 finishes with 8, tied for the most wins with 3. He has the second most stage points of any driver. The only driver who has second most playoff points of any driver. The driver who has the most playoff points is actually Christopher Bell, who has the same amount of wins as Larson. And after winning stage 1 and stage 2 at Nashville last week, Christopher Bell now has 9 stage wins to Larson's 8. So those two by far the most of the stage wins in the series, though Bell has only led 582 laps compared to Larson's 755. Still a lot for Bell, obviously. He's got the 3rd most in the series, but a little bit further behind as he has 4 DNFs this year compared to Larson having 2. Chase Elliott hasn't had 1. So great on Elliott. That is keeping him in this regular season championship hunt for sure. Elliott's had a consistent year also, very quietly sneaking in there with tied for the second most top 5, 7 apiece for both Elliott, Hamlin, and Reddick, and really that's the difference maker, them being up in contention for this regular season championship. Brad Keselowski has under the radar 7 top 5 finishes as well, 9 top 10s, which is very similar to some of those drivers racing for the regular season title, but the reason Keselowski's 9th of points compared to the top 4 is the finishes that aren't in the top 10 have not been great for Brad. And he's not scoring a lot of stage points this season as well, mainly due to the fact that he has not qualified particularly well most weekends. And I don't know if that's going to be the same here for this weekend as well. He showed a little bit of pace of the Ford camp in practice, but the Ford is definitely lacking speed here this weekend compared to the Chevys and Toyotas that top the charts from practice overall. So outside of the regular season championship chase, we'll go now to the full playoff grid. 11 drivers are locked into the Cup Series playoff field out of a possible 16 spots, 11 different winners. 3 wins for 4 drivers that are all tied for the most. Christopher Bell with 3 wins on the year, William Byron with 3, Denny Hamlin with 3, and Kyle Larson with 3. Drivers with 1 win on the season would include Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano after last week at Nashville, couple weeks before that, Austin Cindric got his first win, and Daniel Suarez with a win very early in the year at Atlanta. So those are the 11 drivers locked in with one win. Everybody has 1 or 3 wins on the season of those that have any. Martin Truex Jr. is the highest in the point standings without a win. He's 5th overall in the driver standings, but he would be 12th on the playoff grid if we started today. Again, only 2 stage wins for him and no race wins. Truex on points, so over 2 full races to the good. So he should be in as long as we don't get more than 16 different winners here down the stretch. Ty Gibbs is the 2nd highest driver in the point standings without a win. He's 10th overall in the driver standings. Then you have Ross Chastain, who is next behind him, followed by Chris Buescher. And then Alex Bowman is the last driver in on points, but he is in by 51 points over Bubba Wallace. So a big gap between 16th and 17th on the playoff grid. Behind Wallace, you got Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Josh Berry, all looking for wins to try to get them in the playoffs if they can't make up their huge points deficits. So we'll get that qualifying leaderboard right back up on the screen now. As qualifying just began a little bit ago, again, 15 minutes of qualifying. And your timing and scoring line starts and stops on the exit of turn 11. There is a line there for timing and scoring. They're actually indicating that right now over the USA Network broadcast. And that is due to the potential caution that we could potentially see. Easier to get a full lap in and out when you have the timing and scoring line where it's at. Kind of a loop line, if you will. Saves time for drivers to have to get back to pit road if they want to make another run later in this session. So we've seen that over the last couple of years. Of course, the start-finish line will be normal for the race, though, when we begin that tomorrow. And in the case for the Xfinity Series, of course, later today as well. I believe Larson was the first to that timing and scoring line, so he will be the first driver to complete a lap during this qualifying session. Still a little under 12 and a half minutes to go as Larson goes barreling down into turn 6. Halfway through his lap, Chase Elliott is the next car behind him, so fitting that both the Hendrick Chevys are the first on the track. That was the same for practice earlier today as well. Larson almost got up against the wall off of turn 8. Close one. Definitely trying to get all he can on this qualifying lap. Oh boy, almost wiped out again. That second year wipeout was just getting out of turn 10. Had the left rear yawed out quite a bit. Brings it to pit road. Not sure if that lap time is going to hold up for Larson. He had a couple of near misses. So far, fastest through 4 that have made a timed lap. Now fastest through 10. It's amazing he left some lap time out there and still is fastest overall. Keselowski did get up against the wall with the left rear corner panel. Nothing major. Gotta be careful not to bend that toe link. And these walls are pretty violent. Not a lot of give to them. It would be easy to make a mistake like that. We saw a couple of those instances in last year's race with toe links breaking after getting into the wall off of the corners. Few drivers still yet to make a lap. Michael McDowell in the process of trying to wrap his up. Tracking to be second quickest right now is McDowell. Again, you just got to get into the top 5 in this group of the 20 drivers that will make a lap. Top 5 will guarantee you a spot in the top 10 overall, and of course those drivers will re-qualify for those top 10 positions when we get into round number 2. It'll be top 5 from Group A and Group B overall. 10 minutes to go in this session. Chris Buescher making a second lap. He was 9th quickest on his first. He's tracking in the green, though, in his second. So he could have a pretty good lap going right now. And Buescher does get a good lap in third. So he jumps from 9th to 3rd on his second lap. Michael McDowell quickest on his second lap as well, topping Larson. Chase Briscoe also ran a second lap, and he jumped into the top 5. So second lap faster than the first for the few drivers that have made 2 laps. Get a little heat in the tires for that second lap. Just more of a rhythm overall when you're running your second lap versus just one. And 88.203 was that lap time for McDowell that puts him at the top. Only 12 one-thousandths of a second quicker than Kyle Larson's fastest lap, who has him again second. Larson only ran 1. Chase Elliott's on the bubble currently after his 1 lap, which was an 88.812, about 6/10 of a second behind where McDowell is at. Top 4 or so in practice earlier, a couple tenths quicker than the rest of the field. They qualify up towards the front. It could be a 3 or 4 car getaway when the race begins tomorrow, unless they lose track position, which could happen based off of weird cautions. We saw it on an oval, in fact, last week with Nashville. It could definitely happen on a road course. Happened last year. Granted, last year's circumstances much different, with the race having to be shortened due to a later start because of a rain delay and the ability to not be able to race in the dark on this circuit. SVG wrapping up his first lap, 5th quickest. That knocks Elliott well out. Elliott's now actually 8th. Ross Chastain jumped into the top 5 as well on his second lap, an 88.402 for Ross. SVG with 88.507, about 3/10 quicker than Elliott's time. So now the gap between 1st and 5th is about 3/10 of a second. The fastest lap by Shane Van Gisbergen in practice was a couple tenths quicker than what he put down on his first qualifying lap, so I'd imagine he's going to make a second lap, and he is right now. Yeah, so SVG wrapped up his first lap, he was 5th. His second lap, he's tracking in the green even better. And just trying to get that rhythm in, and he goes to the top. Fastest lap we've seen today, in fact, for Shane Van Gisbergen, a minute 27 second, .864 lap time. So it's about an 87.864. We haven't seen a lap time, both in the Cup or the Xfinity Series, faster than that so far today. SVG qualified on the pole during the Xfinity race earlier, and a hit into the wall, I believe, for Corey LaJoie. And the back of that race car is crunched. It's going to put us under caution with 6 minutes and 35 seconds left. Now, time is frozen in qualifying when a caution comes out. But unfortunately for anybody on the track making their lap, they cannot finish it. I'll have to come in, cool the engine down, and try to get back out and do it again.
Knows that alternate start finish line is right there. Just has to get through one corner. And you can see the frustration, mad at himself, knows he was having a good time. He has prided himself of trying to improve here, and this is the risk.
Still 6.5 minutes. Now we're seeing a very upset.
What's up with DQ? We're debating.
Yeah, visibly upset, I think, is a good way to describe the anger and the frustrations from Corey LaJoie following his incident. That was right in turn 11. All he had to do was finish that corner up. He was so close to completing his lap of qualifying. That was actually his 3rd lap. His second lap was his quickest and put him to 7th, which is just outside the top 5, but unfortunately with crashing his car, he may be going to a backup if they can't get it fixed. He did crunch the left rear corner panel in quite a bit. And again, 6 minutes and 35 seconds still remain. You can see on our leaderboard, we're 8 minutes, 25 seconds in. Time has stopped under caution now for cleanup on the racetrack. And as soon as the track is back green again, everybody on the track can continue on with their lap. Or continue on, I guess they're back to pit road, obviously, but get back out on the racetrack, try to get a lap in. Plenty of time to be able to get a lap or two in yet of qualifying. LaJoy and Gregson, the only two drivers that completed 3 laps of qualifying. Gregson is 13th of the 20 for Group A. We'll take another ad break here on KRC. You're listening live to Cup Series practice at the Chicago Street Race for tomorrow's NASCAR Cup Series event. Dale Opplinger, thanks for tuning in. Richard Fulmer, Delbert Wilson, Robert Perkle, some of the others that are in the chat here. Appreciate you tuning in. SVG just slammed the door shut. Yeah, fast lap. And Daniel Suarez put up a pretty quick lap right after SVG put his fast time into Top McDowell. Suarez put himself to second quickest on the board with an 88.159. Which was obviously, again, faster than McDowell and Larson. Larson, the only driver in the top 8 who ran just 1 lap of qualifying. He's currently 4th, so he is on the bubble to try to get in from the top 5. And all these drivers getting faster lap 2, lap 3 when they run. You'd have to assume that Larson's going to be a driver who's going to go back out, try to make another qualifying lap so he can stay in the top 5 and have a shot at the pole. He was fastest overall in practice, so you would think he'd have a good shot at trying to go for the pole here, but got to make it through the first round to have a shot in the second round. Once again, a reminder to those of you watching this stream, we will go live for our NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage in about 2 hours from now. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time will be the start of our NASCAR Xfinity Series race right here in Chicago for the street course event. Loop 110 will be the sponsor for that race.
Crowd's starting to build up. I want to know if are you going to be on that ramp? I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen on that ramp. It looks like it'd be a good time.
I'll be making a jump later.
If so, I'm going to have to take a break from the booth to go see it.
Yeah, the bump really just amazing here.
So there's the bumps, and then when he turns back to the right, I mean, look at that.
Wow.
Right, look how high the right front is off the ground. So this is balance. You want soft rear springs because you can imagine soft is better. It rides the bumps, although nothing's going to ride that situation, but it rides the bump like a Cadillac, right? Like going over a set of train tracks in your Suburban. It kind of goes right over. If you get in your sports car, down on the ground, it's rough and it shakes, and that's the balance between the two. You can make it ride really nice, but it's not very fast. So you have to find this comfort that your driver can perform at, but you also have enough speed in the car where you're not asking too much of your driver.
John Hunter Nemechek here at his Toyota Camry. Now, a street legal Camry, you can see, upwards of maybe 500 horsepower or something out of a car that would normally be on the streets here. But these guys are turning a lot more, obviously, speed, but have so much more horsepower.
More power, more tire, more downforce. I want to see this 42 car. I was really impressed with his laps in practice, the consistency of his laps. So I want to see, whether that's just, repetitive laps or if he does have the speed. You see him trending in the green so far.
And continuing on with Group A, we had an issue with some of the banners coming off of the wall, so there's a red flag. Stopped this qualifying session for just a few moments while they cleaned that up.
You can check a real in control, right? You see him go over the bumps, nothing's locking up. Left-hand turn, turn 6, and then you said it the best, Rick. We go through this corner about 50 miles an hour, and in one city block, they're going to reach over 100. Over 100 miles an hour, cresting this bridge, they pop into view. Brad Keselowski, we saw him chasing his teammate Chris Buescher in practice earlier. Buescher is 6th on the board. Keselowski 11th. Keselowski, though, on a really good lap. 3/10 up at the moment.
Again, comparing to Chastain, who's 5th, top 5 advanced to the final round of qualifying. Each group, Keselowski still looking very good.
Yeah, but he's got traffic here, and I don't know if Chastain is coming to the green. Okay, Chastain moves over. So aware. You talk about small things. Chastain understanding Brad or is hearing from the spotter that Brad's coming. He gives him the lane.
Still 0.3 of a second. Keselowski, is he going to put himself in? It looks like.
Wow.
Keselowski.
All the work to improve.
Almost missed the pits.
6-car runs a really impressive lap.
Only the second person to run a sub 128 lap. Because now we ride along with John Hunter Nemechek.
So Larson's still not back out on the track to try to make another run at it yet. Under 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session for Group A. Shane Van Gisbergen still at the fastest time overall, but as you heard there on the telecast, Brad Keselowski now. And Keselowski put a lap time down of an 87.927. Only 0.06 of a second slower than SVG. Yeah, Keselowski almost missed the pits. Probably a late call to pit road maybe to get in there. He was probably thinking that he was going to run another lap, and then they told him, hey, you're second, you're good. Made the late dive onto pit road. That could have been catastrophic, though. Martin Truex Jr. tracking in the green on his next lap. He is currently on track. So bump Kyle Larson out of the top 5 if he's able to stay in the green. Big wiggle, though, by Truex. That's going to cost him. Looked a bit for Truex, and now he's 0.4 of a second in the red. And Larson still in 5th. Michael McDowell's making another lap just in case he were to fall out of the top 5. McDowell currently 4th, and Larson's on the track as well. So Larson now back out there with a little over a minute to go. I believe we might have had another spin. We do stay green. And yeah, quite a bit of damage to the left side of Josh Berry's race car. Berry, who struggled at Sonoma last month on a road course, gets into the wall with his left rear. Showed a replay of Chris Buescher getting into the wall as well. Buescher 8th, Berry is 18th. So neither one of those two in the top 5 for the moment. Berry still trying to nurse his way all the way back into the pits. Tough to tell exactly what corner that took place in for Berry. Larson back to P1. 87.518, 0.3 quicker than SVG's fastest lap in second. That was the 3rd lap ran by Larson as he pulls it to pit road. Suarez now drops to 5th on the leaderboard. McDowell jumped him, also ran an 87 second lap time, and 87.999 for McDowell. So he's back to 4th again. Still green. And once the time runs out for the 15 minutes, you can still finish the lap you are on. So again, Daniel Suarez is in 5th and on the bubble, and he's back out on the racetrack, but he doesn't look to have a lap time quicker than what he has already put down. So he's just really hoping he doesn't get knocked out at the last second here. So he wraps up his lap through turn 11. He'll be bringing it to pit road. Zane Smith still on the racetrack. I believe he's the last to finish up qualifying. Showing a replay of Berry spinning. Looked to be up out of turn 2. Turn 2 is where Berry went for a spin. So qualifying is done now for round 1, Group A. Your fast 5 from Group A's first round will be Kyle Larson first. My screen just disappeared. Kyle Larson, Shane Van Gisbergen, Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez were the fast 5. So those drivers will have a chance to requalify for the pole. I'm very shocked that Brad Keselowski got into the top 5. He is not a great road course racer and not a great qualifier in general in the next gen era, and he's still on a road course nonetheless, was able to put a lap time up, which means he will be starting in the top 10, as long as, of course, he doesn't wreck his car in round 2. In that case, he would have to go to a backup at the tail end of the field. But no incidences in practice, a few of them here in qualifying. One resulted in a caution, and that was Corey LaJoie's incident up off of turn 11. We just saw Josh Berry towards the tail end of qualifying back it into the wall off of turn 2. A couple other drivers maybe got a piece of the wall as well. Very close calls as well. In practice, Ty Gibbs had a big one in turn 1 where he locked up big time and almost hit the tire barrier there. 20 drivers who will qualify for Group B will be Josh Bilicki, AJ Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, Harrison Burton, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Eric Jones, Kyle Busch, Justin Haley, Christopher Bell, Daniel Hemrick, Carson Hocevar, Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric, Ryan Preece, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and Tyler Reddick. Those are the 20 drivers that will take the track next for Group B, qualifying again 15 minutes to set the quick lap. Top 5 advance into the final round. 36 likes on the stream. Again, our goal is to get to 50 likes on this stream. So again, hit that like button so we can get to our goal. Trainskate 1024, thanks for tuning in. Red because it's a stoppage in between groups. So Group A just finished. Group B is about to hit the track. Once it goes green, drivers will be able to take the track and put up a lap time. So Larson came back out just to secure himself a spot in the top 5. And it's a good thing he did, because I think he would have been 6th if he didn't go back out with the lap that Michael McDowell put up again right at the tail end of qualifying. And that jumped Larson up to 1st overall. Yeah, just ignore the laps counter on the screen. It sets it at 999 for whatever reason. I think it just does that so there's no finish unofficially of practice or qualifying. So it just counts however many laps whoever's at the top of the board has at the end of practice or qualifying. But it's like that every week on the raw feed. This comes off of NASCAR.com as well, if you were wondering. $41 likes now. We're 9 away from 50, our goal. And our goal for the Xfinity race later today will be 100. Fastest cars from this group of qualifying for practice would include the Toyotas. A lot of the Toyotas, really. Ty Gibbs was fastest from this group. Tyler Reddick had some speed. Same for Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin. And then Alex Bowman also was in the top 5. Christopher Bell, a little bit outside the top 5, may have a shot here. He's got some road course wins in his Cup career. Daytona road course's first career win back in the Gen 6 car in 2021. Also a win at the Roval in 2022. Reddick 3 wins with this car on road courses. 1 for 2311 Racing, 2 with RCR. His first 2 career Cup wins on road courses with RCR. That was in the 2022 season. His first career win at Road America. And was able to get a win at the Indianapolis road course the next month. So again, Fast 5 from Group A's qualifying session in the same order that I'm going to go through them in. Kyle Larson was first. Second was Shane Van Gisbergen. Brad Keselowski third. Michael McDowell fourth, and Daniel Suarez was fifth. A lot of those strong Toyotas, though, in this group. Very few Toyotas in Group A. 6 of the 8 that fields cars every weekend in this group. Martin Truex Jr. and John Hunter Nemechek were the only 2 Toyotas in Group A. Neither one made the Fast 5.
To choose from.
Alrighty. So green flag is up, so we are now back to on-track activity. This time for Group B's qualifying with Grant Park 165, downtown Chicago. Got an interview behind pit row with Ross Chastain and Justin Marks.
We're talking cold plunges like Michigan, deep dish pizza. How's your race?
About as sweet as a Busch Light Peach, Dave. Gosh, a ton of pickup practice for us. Really loose in practice. Hard to challenge the rear tires, straight line or turning. So Phil Surgeon and the Mikes made some amazing changes for me to pick up a second half at a road course is incredible. Put us right there with the group of cars we want to race with. 20 spots better than last year qualifying. So I did scrape the wall in four a little bit. I did scuff it, but it's kind of the Busch Light way.
But every lap counts, right? Every lap is more rhythm, more time on this place that we don't see but once a year.
Yeah. Way out of my comfort zone here. Have had a year to think about it, look at SVG stuff, look at Daniel's stuff, the whole industry and how they evolved last year. So I was the weak part of the one car last year, and at least in qualifying, we elevated up to where we want to be. And to just miss out on second round by just a few tenths to my teammate is, if I'm within a few tenths of Daniel at these road courses, I'm doing my job.
Good lap by Ross out there, guys.
I tell you, Rick, I know he's kind of becoming polarizing like Kyle Busch, right? People either love or hate Ross Chastain. But my man can give me a pep talk. I don't think I've ever seen him in a bad mood. Every interview, he's smiling. He's having a great time. His path.
Alex Bowman on the track right now. It's looking like he's got a lot of clean air in front of him. He'll be the first driver to complete a lap of practice, just similar, or of qualifying here in this round. Same for what his teammates Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott did in Group A. Larson went back out right at the very end to back his lap time up, and that put him to quickest overall. But he ran less laps than a lot of other drivers, so definitely could work out for him. We'll see if Bowman will stick to that strategy here, knowing that he was also quick from his practice session. See if he can get into the top 5 when it matters more here in qualifying. Already down to 12 minutes to go. Bowman about halfway through his lap. A little more than halfway. He's just getting into turn 10. And you'll see his lap time up on screen here in a moment. Got out of turn 11 to the line. There it goes. Not as quick as I would have thought. 89.229 for Bowman. Bowman and Byron actually the slowest two, 7th and 8th, 1 through 5. Kind of similar to where they were in practice for this group of cars. A little bit different order than what you saw in practice, but Gibbs is still the top of the Toyota camp. And we'll see as more laps get put together how much that will end up changing. Surprised Justin Haley was as far back in practice as he is. I know it's a Rick Ware Racing Ford, but he's been very good as of late. Definitely on a hot streak coming into this race, and Haley also had a top 3 finish in last year's race at Chicago with Colleague Racing at the time in the Cup Series, so surprised he has been as far down the speed charts as he is. Now, I wasn't expecting him to necessarily be out top 10 on speed out of the gate this weekend, but I was expecting top half of the field here for Haley. Currently 16th in this qualifying session. So that fast lap for Ty Gibbs was an 88.393 on his first lap. It was only 7 1,000ths of a second quicker than second place, who is currently Christopher Bell. A lot of cool shots from the cameras. Cars coming up off the corner, seeing either city skylines in the back, train in the background. Definitely a lot of cool scenic views. Two laps put down by Gibbs. His second one was his quickest. Dropped an 87.958. The only driver from Group A that was able to make it into the final round of qualifying with an 88-second lap time was Daniel Suarez. Everybody else had 87s. So if you get into the 87s, very good chance you're going to be able to hold on, but we'll see how much quicker the pace will be here for these Group B cars. Just that little bit of extra time getting to look at that SMT data. We usually see them pick up in speed on ovals most weekends, but we'll see on a newer road course layout how that's going to end up working out. Will it be the same or will it be slightly different? Reddick jumps to second. He flip-flopped with Bell from lap 1 to lap 2. Bell actually didn't even run a second lap. He pulled in after his first. He's the only driver in the top 5 right now that only ran 1 lap before coming in to cool the engine down just a little bit. Fast 5 right now, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman. Still 8.5 minutes to go. A little over halfway through this qualified run. Carson Hocevar, who is 8th after his second lap, is currently on track making a 3rd lap, and he is tracking in the green to try to knock Bowman out of the top 5. Good qualifying runs on ovals this year for Hocevar. He's had a few top 10 starts. Some on super speedways and non-super speedways. Bit of a loose moment, but he is definitely pushing hard. And he was, I believe, 6th or 7th quickest. I think he was 7th in their practice session. A little bit outside the top 10. Kind of fluctuated around 13th, 14th. Obviously going to have to pick up a little bit of time here in qualifying. And so far, so good. He's up to 5th. He does boot Bowman out. Only about 3 of them. So the likelihood of him getting back out of the track isn't going to be as high as Bowman, who only ran 2 laps to get back out there. Bowman much quicker on lap 2 than what he was lap 1. Byron still outside the top 10 in 11th. So he seems to be struggling here this weekend. I'd say the Hendrick cars, Byron's probably looked the slowest so far through practice and qualifying. Leaving a little bit to be desired, I'd say. Only driver to not make a qualifying lap is Josh Bilicki. Bilicki's still back there in 20th. He did participate in practice earlier. Allmendinger ran 1 lap. He's 19th right now. But imagine he'll go back out there and improve on that lap. It was a 90.243. So he must have had a pretty big mistake that was not caught on camera initially. Because Allmendinger not used to being at the bottom of the leaderboard on a road course in qualifying. I don't think anybody's on track making a lap right now, and if they are on track, they're on their warm-up or get up to speed lap here before actually getting back that timing line off the exit of turn 11.
Seat might be stood up a little bit more. You might actually sit up more, really roll forward, because it helps the driver sit a little higher to see over the hood. You talk about these apexes, just how close you are, so the vision for the driver, there's a lot of things that go into this. But either way, if they have to make a repair significant enough that NASCAR teams, they'll start at the back. 75 laps, narrow racetrack, big challenge.
And they mentioned they want to get the best lap they can in, because pit road and their positioning on pit road is very important. And right now, we mentioned how William Byron, he's 11th in just this group. So a long way off of right now that possibility of running into the next group.
So we heard Rudy Fugle say, do the best we can, it'll help us on pit road. So he is already thinking, we're going to have to make some changes and go to the back. But what he means is we could pick pits earlier, get a better pit stall. Under green, not a big deal, but under yellow, you know, it's very tight on pit road. So he thinks it can help. We'll see what they end up having to change on the 24. Now we're back on track, though, with the 3 of Austin Dillon.
Under 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session.
Austin Dillon currently 12th. Going to have to pick up quite a bit to get to Hocevar to get into that top 5. Other cars on the track behind Austin Dillon. Back out there trying to make some laps to get themselves into the Fast 5 and make a shot at the pole for round 2. It's amazing in some of these corners on the racetrack how much speed it looks like they're carrying. So in practice, speeds upwards of about 145 miles per hour on the fastest points of the track, and some of the slowest points down around 50. Definitely seeing our fair share of brake lockups, and we'll continue to see that all weekend. Especially when we get into the race where drivers are going to be pushing even harder. Especially in the late going. Yeah, Dylan definitely not going to get into the top 5 on the lap he is currently running. Just working his way into turn 11 right now. We'll see if he stays out, runs another lap. I'd imagine he probably will. Even if he doesn't get into the top 5, try to improve on what he has right now for qualifying. Yep, he does stay out on the track. He is going to try to run yet another. Austin Cindric out on the track, as well as Ryan Preece. Cindric tracking in the green. A little over a tenth. Braking well early into turn 1 compared to a lot of those drivers that aren't in the green. And you can see that already pushed him down into the red. So he did a good job coming up to speed, getting past the start-finish line, getting through turn 12. That main straightaway down towards turn 1, though, he definitely did not brake as deep as a lot of other drivers, and that seems to be where he's losing out. Just maybe doesn't feel he has the balance to be able to do it. Almost got up against the wall up off of turn 5. Christopher Bell back on track. He is still in the top 5, currently 3rd. Trying to better his time in case he gets booted. Looking for a clean lap. Not going to be easy. He caught Denny Hamlin in a hurry, and Hamlin definitely slowed the lap up there for Christopher Bell. Bell was hauling the mail. He caught Denny Hamlin in a hurry and had to check up.
Continues to move. We saw Haley out there as well. Haley was right in the a year ago.
Essentially, looking for a win here in Chicago for SVG went by. As we see Bubba on track.
And importantly, clear track ahead of the 23, so hopefully no traffic will be an issue. As we look up Lakeshore way off in the distance. That car looked like it rode the bumps pretty well, either the car or the driver. I'm going to give Bubba credit. Maybe not on the brakes, maybe let it coast at certain locations. Now you see the lap time, though. He didn't use up as much room, and he lost a little bit of time, but he's right there.
Will it convert to speed as he enters turn 6?
It's going to be a lot of conversation over the summer about this 23 and his points position.
Bubba Wallace would always talk about how it was the road courses that were so difficult for him. But he's gone to work, and now Bubba Wallace is in the green here. He potentially could make it to the next round. As he goes by all the McDonald's banners with his McDonald's paint scheme. Look at this. Bubba Wallace, 3rd fastest at a 128.19.
And I think Bubba's going to...
Kind of similar to Brad Keselowski from round 1, just a lot of improvement here on this street course layout, and a shock that both of those drivers are up inside the top 5 in qualifying on this type of a racetrack. Wallace showed some real speed, though, in practice, much like the rest of his Toyota teammates. I wouldn't say he's in a must-win situation to get into the playoffs yet, like a lot of other people are saying, considering 51 points is makeable enough. I think in comparison to the speed of the 48 of Alex Bowman, you would consider that maybe 51 points is too big to overcome on him. You never know what can happen over the next 7 weeks before the playoffs begin. Still a lot of time. Got 3 races on that 2-week break, and then the final 4 races of the regular season following the Olympic break later this year. Ty Gibbs is back out on track, looking to stay inside the top 5. As you heard on the broadcast there, Bubba Wallace did jump up to 3rd quickest. Each of the top 5 cars, other than Alex Bowman, are currently on track. Bowman was on track a little bit ago, just wrapped up. He's still 5th quickest after his 4 laps. I don't think the top 5 is going to change at all, though. Oh, and Harrison Burton's crashed. Setting backwards in turn 5, I believe. Turn 6, excuse me. Turn 6 for Harrison Burton. This was right as time was expiring, too.
He is now 5th, so he got, sixth, knocked out of the top 5.
Saw Kyle Busch was just in front. He was 10th.
Harrison unable to get it refired at the moment.
Oh, locked him up really early.
Yeah, surprising to be that early. Tires doing their job. Oof.
Yeah.
Looks a whole lot easier in slow motion. You see him moving around, hand on the shifter inside the car, trying to get it refired. These things just don't want, when they slide to a stop, they don't want to crank.
He's got the window net down.
Block at the rears. Hey, left side. You know how bad it is, really. Rear left side.
You hear a good report, but out of breath. I mean, they're working hard, and that's a shot, right? You driver's side door. There's only about a foot of foam between you and those tires. That tire pack did a really nice job, but you even saw the concrete barriers behind slide a little with the impact.
So Group B finishes their session, and then here's Burton. Yeah, you mentioned it. Into that tire pack in turn 6.
So Group B qualifying has just concluded. Your Fast 5 from the group would include Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Alex Bowman. This is right as we were getting the official red flag to end qualifying where Harrison Burton had crashed. He was on his final lap. So the few drivers that were trying to make up another little bit of lap time on that final lap were disallowed. So they were not able to finish because the caution had come out. So I don't think they're going to give them one more lap for those drivers to finish up, because I believe the 15 minutes were already done by the time the caution came out anyway. So again, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, the Fast 5 from Group B. 4 Toyotas and a Chevy. And those are the only Toyotas that will be going after those top 10 positions in qualifying. And there you see our 10 drivers who will participate in a shot at the pole. Again, no particular order here. This is definitely not based off of how they finished. Well, it is somewhat. It's kind of based off the single car order that we would usually see. Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell, Brad Keselowski, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Kyle Larson were 5th through 1st, with Larson being the fastest in Group A, and then Bowman, Wallace, Reddick, Bell, Gibbs in that order, reverse 5 through 1, Gibbs being the fastest from Group B. Gibbs was the fastest in Group B practice as well. Larson the fastest in Group A practice, so that did not change at all. Bell, who was 6th fastest in his group in practice, 2nd quickest in qualifying. And he pretty much jumped all the drivers who were ahead of him: Reddick, Wallace, Bowman. Now that they're locked into a top 10 starting spot, we'll see if they'll go for anyway and have him start at the tail end of the field tomorrow. We'll see how this is all going to shake up. A little less than an hour and a half away from our NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage later today. Again, 3:30 Eastern Time, we'll go live for that. Our Cup Series race tomorrow, we will go live at 4 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race coverage. We're at 46 likes on the stream. We're just 4 likes away from our goal of 50, so be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet so we can get to that goal. on our first live commentary stream of 3 of the weekend, and a triple header today because, again, we will have NASCAR 07 content later tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Go live for NASCAR 07. It'll be a Watkins Glen full race. A lot of road course racing coverage here this weekend on the channel. Take another ad break, and we'll get this final round of qualifying wrapped up here shortly.
Chicago is definitely ready. And beautiful skies here. Look over Lake Michigan, back to the skyline of Chicago. And Group A, Group B have completed both of their qualifying sessions. Now it will be the final round of qualifying where we'll combine A and B. You take a look at who are the fastest in A and fastest in B.
It's a mix, some heavyweights that we expected and some standouts. Brad Keselowski, unbelievable lap. Great lap to the 6th. Bubba Wallace in Group B down there in 4th. Those are 2 drivers I didn't see. They proved me wrong. They're in the top 10. And then, Kyle, Shane Van Gisbergen. We have Christopher Bell, who was so good a year ago. So this is going to be a heavyweight battle here in the final round.
We also have Ty Gibbs put up a great lap there in Group B. Ty Gibbs, one of those drivers who we're anticipating that victory lane is just around the corner. Could it be around a left and a right corner in the streets of Chicago, Dave?
Bubba Wallace, we're talking road course, street course, and we're talking to you moving on to the last round. Sporty lap.
Thank you. I didn't think it was good enough. We knew we needed 87, and I ran a 88.1, I think. So tried to get a lot there on the second lap and went slower. So that's life lessons. When you try too hard, you usually slow down. But just appreciate the effort and just the work put in going into this week. The last couple of weeks, we've just been hitting sim really hard and getting a good rhythm. Going out behind Tyler and learning a lot from him. So cars are good. Appreciate everybody back at airspeed getting this. McDonald's, Jiu-Jitsu, Toyota Camry, anime, you name it, it's fast. Getting it well prepped.
Did you have to memorize some new moves and everything for that rap there?
Oh, I'm too old to be practicing those moves, so I'm sure my new boy that's on the way, he'll be all into that stuff, so we're good.
Very good. Bubba Wallace, great first round qualifying. He moves on, guys.
So a little disappointed in his speed, but I think he should be celebrating the fact he's going to run. He's going to start in the top 10. He's going to run for the pole here in just a moment. Stay with him.
Another full screen commercial break on the USA Network. A little bit of a cool down period because all these 10 drivers for this final round will go out at once. Obviously, the Group B drivers just wrapping up, giving them time a little bit now, a little over 20 minutes since the last driver for Group A has been on racetrack. So again, bottom of the hour, we'll wrap this live commentary stream up for practice and qualifying for tomorrow's Chicago Street Race event for the NASCAR Cup Series. Hope to see many of you that are in the chat right now back for that race tomorrow. And we did hit our goal of 50 likes on the stream, so appreciate that, everybody. Appreciate you hitting the like button. Helps these streams out every channel for the season. A couple weeks ago at Iowa, we had our most viewed stream. That was topped the following week at New Hampshire. Last week, it wasn't the most viewed stream for the 3rd consecutive week, but it was the most liked stream we've had this season. More liked than any of the 2 streams, or really any stream we've had this year prior to that. So we'll see if we set a stream record yet again for the 4th consecutive week, at least with the Cup Series race tomorrow. Appreciate everybody that tunes in for these live streams every single weekend. It really helps me out a ton and helps me grow confidence of giving you guys commentary, being able to do it, confidence in myself to be able to have the ability to do this for you every weekend. And it's fun just sitting back watching NASCAR with a lot of people that are dedicated to watching it too. So waiting for our final 10 drivers to qualify. And this will be timed. just like we had for round 1. Both groups getting 15 minutes. I believe only 10 minutes in this final round, if I'm not mistaken. Similar rule applies. If we do see an incident, then the time will freeze. And they'll get another chance to try to set their quick lap after the fact. Not like practice where the minutes and seconds that count down the practice session continue to tick by under caution. Sometimes NASCAR in certain circumstances would allow for extra practice time in those situations. Here at qualifying, with it being timed, no ifs, ands, or buts there, it's frozen immediately.
Ran out of gas and went across the finish line. Now, only 7 races remain until the playoffs begin, and there's only 5 spots that are still above that cutoff line. Potential winners could jump in there from this race.
Well, and every week it's something different. Right, street course. Next week, Pocono. The next week, Indy back on the oval, which I'm super pumped for. Right, and then we're gonna see Daytona's in there, Michigan's in there. There's just such a variety of tracks to end the regular season. And you got to remember that Truex, I think, feels really good. But when you look at Gibbs, Chastain, Buescher, Bowman, they are so close in points that say Bubba Wallace upsets the world and wins here at the street course, that puts him in, and that right there would be just a unbelievable points battle. And with Daytona looming, I think you have to think anybody could win themselves in. Dave, how about that power steering issue on the 24? What are you hearing?
Right, I'm looking at the grid there, and the 3 next to Byron's name. He's very happy. He's got 3 wins, and he is in the playoffs. But Rudy Fugel, guy with the backpack right there, the crew chief, just told me that they'll have to replace the entire steering system. There was no improvement when they went to their quick fix, and so therefore they'll have to go start at the back steep by rule.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Just a team of that size, you just hope to not have these mechanical gremlins, but it happens.
And Byron is going to be back there a ways. He'll start 27th. So pit selection will be difficult for that organization as we see Daniel Suarez make his way out onto the track. Larson is out there. Keselowski are going to give themselves a little bit of room here. And it's 10 minutes to determine the pole and the top 10 starting positions.
Interesting. I'd love to see right there. That's a really easy back to the gas. You also have to gap yourself. There's only 10 cars, so there should be enough space, but
we're seeing Suarez go through kind of a couple vehicles. We'll see if he stays behind Larson. Larson's in front of him. And Larson will be the first one that would be on the clock. Looks like Suarez is going to leave him a little bit of room. Getting up to speed. So Larson's got the tires warmed up. We'll see what he can do. He'll be the first one on the clock.
10 minutes. I think it's enough time to get 2 runs in.
Coming up out of turn number 11 for Kyle Larson, beginning his lap of qualifying, his timed lap, that is, first one. I would imagine every driver here is going to be running at least a couple laps if they're on the track right out of the gate, then try to run again right at the tail end. Or maybe some drivers who aren't on the track right now are just waiting until those last couple minutes to make a few laps. So some differentiating strategies going on here with when to hit the racetrack. Definitely want to make sure you have clean racetrack in front of you to make those laps in. Again, Larson's lap would have been the quickest overall from round 1 or round 2 of qualifying. He also had the fastest lap overall in practice. So maybe looking like the one to beat here this weekend. Though he wasn't that far ahead of Shane Van Gisbergen. The practice session, those two were trading lap times back and forth, and it was kind of the same in qualifying, just not as many laps ran as practice, obviously. So you only saw that happen a time or two there. It's going to be fun to watch those guys go head-to-head tomorrow, especially if they start up on this front row. Larson around the fountain right now, headed for turns 10 and 11. 10, now into 11. We'll see what lap time he'll put on his first lap in round 2. At the line, 88.079, so he's definitely got some time to try to pick up here. Daniel Suarez second with an 89.23. And all these teams do have several laps on their tires, too. So it'll be interesting to see if we see anybody run an 87.5 again like Larson did back in round 1. Keselowski third. I think he had a big mistake on his lap. He was about 16 seconds slower than Larson. Suarez stayed out to run a second lap after his first. I believe Larson pulled into the pits right away after running his lap. And yeah, Keselowski had a spin coming out of turn 11. He actually tagged the wall with the left rear corner panel. And that was the reason for his lap time being 16 seconds slower than Kyle Larson. It'll be interesting if Keselowski goes back out to try to make another lap at the end of the run. I don't think he tagged the wall too hard. He shouldn't be going to a backup by any means, so he'll still be in the top 10, but may end up with the slowest time. Suarez about a second off of Larson's last lap on each of his 2 laps, and actually Suarez a little slower on his second lap of round 2 compared to his first lap. By about 0.2 of a second. Almost exactly 0.2 of a second to the 1,000th of a second. He was slower on lap 2 versus lap 1 here in the second round. Under 5 minutes to go. We're halfway through round 2, our final round of qualifying. Only 3 drivers have completed a lap. Michael McDowell is now on the track. One of only 2 Fords. Him and Keselowski, the only 2 Fords in the top 10. Then you have 4 Chevys and 4 Toyotas for the manufacturer side of things trying to go for this pole. McDowell was 4th in his group. Pretty accomplished road course racer. Got a win on a road course last season in NASCAR, Indianapolis. And in just a few weeks' time, we'll go back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but we will be back on the oval for the Brickyard 400 and not on the road course. We'll see the Brickyard return to its traditional form on the NASCAR side of things. Pretty good lap being set by McDowell right now, looking to be a couple tenths quicker than Larson if he gets through these final couple corners unscathed. Still a really good lap for Michael McDowell. 0.2 of a second to the good in the green. Still many more to qualify back behind him, but great job right now. Alex Bowman is also on the racetrack. He's tracking in the green on Larson, but not as fast as what McDowell is looking. Larson's the time to beat until McDowell completes his lap. And our first driver to get an 87-second lap time in round 2 of qualifying is Michael McDowell, 87.862. A 90.141 mile per hour average speed on his fast lap. So our first 87 of round 2, and Alex Bowman about a 1/10 of a second or more off of McDowell's fast lap from moments ago. And Michael McDowell's running another lap, so he's trying to back up his fast lap time he just put down, trying to put down an even faster lap to make it that much harder for anybody else to get the pole. A lot of drivers still have not completed their laps yet. Shane Van Gisbergen just making his way into turn 1. Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs are both on the track right now. So a lot of these drivers are going out right at the tail end of qualifying and not towards the beginning of it. Like Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, and Brad Keselowski did. Doesn't look like Gibbs is going to have a lap that's going to be quick enough to have a shot at McDowell. And Shane Van Gisbergen may have to run more than one lap as well, which he will have time to do so. Again, it takes a little under 90 seconds to get a full lap in. As long as you hit the timing and scoring line right off the exit of turn 11 for qualifying, before the clock hits zeros, that lap will count, and you can continue your lap even after the 10 minutes has been done. Definitely going to have to be what Shane Van Gisbergen's going to do. Third quickest for SVG in 88.183. Kyle Larson just wrapped up his second lap. Actually, no, never mind. His second lap was him pulling into the pits there. That's why you see 302nd lap. His first lap was his quickest, which was an 88.079 for Larson. But again, he is second. Michael McDowell still the only driver in the 87s. Larson back out on the racetrack again and is tracking in the green on McDowell for the moment. We'll see if he stays there. Ty Gibbs tracking in the green. Gibbs was 7th on his first lap, an 89.108, so definitely looking to pick up on that here for lap 2. Ty Gibbs with one career pole that was in the Coca-Cola 600 at the end of May, earlier this season. Larson almost got the pole on his lap. It was close. 2/1000ths of a second, the difference between Larson's fast lap and McDowell's fast lap. Ty Gibbs looking pretty good still, getting into turn 11. Sorry, rather he's just getting around the fountain, so he'll be headed for turn 10 next. Have my corners mixed up. He lost quite a bit of time going through that set of corners. He was looking really good there for a while. Off of turn 11, Gibbs to the top. He still got it. An 87.846. Reddick to 4th. Just dropped an 88.075. Lap time's very tight here at the top of the leaderboard. Top 3 separated by 18/1000ths of a second, which is amazing on a road course like this. That's how tight everything is. Larson stayed out to run yet another lap. He was 2/1000ths of a second off McDowell's time, but is currently 3rd. And he'll be headed for turn 10. The clock has hit zeros, so this is the final lap for Larson. And he will get to the top again, an 87.836, 100th of a second, the difference between Larson and Gibbs. Great lap by Kyle Larson. No matter the challenge, this guy seems to qualify on the pole a lot this season. My goodness. Ty Gibbs is still out on the racetrack. Kyle Larson just topped his lap. Gibbs stayed out. I believe he's the last driver to have to complete a lap here in qualifying to try to go for the pole. But it doesn't look like he's going to have enough time to complete it. I don't think he got back to the start-finish line before the triple zeros. Camera isn't on him, so I'd imagine that is the case. Kyle Larson has qualified on the pole yet again in 2024 with a lap time of an 87.836. Here today, fastest overall in practice. Fastest in both round and round 2 of this qualifying session. And here's a word with your pole sitter, Kyle Larson.
Walk us through the whole lap. It had to be perfect.
It wasn't perfect. It was honestly better than my first lap, but I think I had better grip potential the first lap, so I wish I could have had a couple corners back there. But yeah, that was pretty awesome. I don't know what I think Ty Gibbs was second, right? I don't know what he ran, but judging by the reaction from my spotter, had to be pretty close on lap time. So really awesome to get a pole here in Chicago. We usually have a lot of success with this red Valvoline scheme, so
that gives you added confidence for sure. But yeah, can't thank my whole HinderCars.com team enough, Chevy, everybody involved. So yeah, checked the first box, so hopefully we can keep it going.
Kyle Larson, he nails it.
He does. It's a busy day for Kyle Larson as he's done practice and qualifying for the Xfinities.
Definitely a lot of extra laps for a lot of those top drivers in the field. Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, both in the Xfinity Series race coming up later today. Daniel Suarez also in the top 10. Shane Van Gisbergen, they were set to run that Xfinity race later also. We'll go through the full starting lineup for tomorrow's race real quick. I have to rewind the broadcast just a second so I can catch up on that for you. Kyle Larson, again, on the pole, 5th time this season, 27th pole of his Cup Series career. Ty Gibbs will be starting outside of the front row in second for tomorrow's race. Michael, row 4 for Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman. Row 5 is Daniel Suarez and Brad Keselowski. Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick for row 6. Row 7, Carson Hocevar, Ross Chastain. Row 8, Austin Dillon and Chris Buescher. Row number 9, Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. Kyle Busch, Corey LaJoie in row 10. LaJoie did have a crash at the end of his qualifying run, though, so he may be going to a backup. That will be a developing story overnight. Haley and Martin Truex Jr. Row 13 for Eric Jones and Todd Gilliland. William Byron, Noah Gragson, row 14. Row 15 for Ryan Preece, Zane Smith. Harrison Burton, Joey Logano in row 16. Rounding out the Cup Series field for tomorrow's race, row 17 will be Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Austin Hill. Row 18 for Daniel Hemrick and Josh Berry. AJ Allmendinger, Joey Hand in row 19, and then rounding out the field in row 20 will be Josh Bilicki and Kaz Grala. So again, that will be the starting lineup for tomorrow's Grant Park 165 at the Chicago Street Course layout. This will wrap up our first live commentary stream of the weekend. We will have full flag-to-flag coverage for today's Xfinity Series race in about 1 hour's time. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard start time for that one. And our Cup Series coverage for this race tomorrow will be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll also have a NASCAR 07 stream later on tonight as well. So busy weekend for the Chicago Street Race event. All happening right here on KRC. Appreciate everybody tuning in for this stream. I will see you live a little bit later, and hopefully tomorrow as well. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for hitting that like button. Be sure to do so if you haven't yet on your way out. Also subscribe for more NASCAR content. We have live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend for NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, truck races that don't go to in person, as well as Cup practice and qualifying that you're seeing right here, right now. But it's just wrapping up again. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I will see you in a little bit.